One of my first goals being a congresswoman is I'm going to rearrange how our staff is set up, how our budget is spent. And if Lamborn's office is understaffed, then I think everyone else in the office can take a 10 grand a year pay cut and they can hire a VA specialist for combat veterans. And that's where I'm going to start. Today was an interesting day. Thank you for speaking for Randy. I met with him a week and a half ago with another friend. Miss Pat was in the room, and we talked for an hour. The future of freedom, the cycles of tyranny. He said he was supporting Lamborn, but he said, you know what, Cal, if you win, I'm going to help you, because that's who he was. And with a big smile on his face, and we first sat down, you could feel the tension, and I'm just like, I know you're supporting Lamborn, and he's like, yeah, but as the conversation went on and we loosened up, we started talking about the things that really matter: the value of human life, the principles of liberty, the state of our country, where we're at as a voting public. We always talk about Washington and the corruption and the failure of our political parties, and that's true, but one of the reasons I'm running is because I'm willing to take responsibility for a democratic republic. If we don't stand up, don't expect someone else to do it for you. That's why you guys are here tonight. We live in a society and a culture where people have lost touch. They become so entitled and apathetic or detached from reality to know that freedom isn't free. I don't know, where is Miss Lily? If you can hear her whole story, do. If any of you have ever traveled overseas and understand what we have here, and I think many people in this room have, let me share two quick stories about my experiences overseas. My dad was stationed in Belgium when it was called the Supreme Headquarters Allied Powers Europe. And we were stationed over there in the early 90s. And one of my most treasured and vivid childhood memories was when I would go to the Shape Riding Club. It was an equestrian facility. And it was an old World War II airplane hangar that had been converted into a riding club. And there were still World War II bunkers there, shrapnel sticking out of the ground, rusting. As a kid, I would play around on these things, ride our horses, climb trees, get in trouble. And there was a gentleman that lived in the acre next door. His name was Monsieur Francois. And he was a wonderful, wonderful Belgian farmer. And he would have his son come over. He spoke French, also probably Dutch. And his son would translate. And I remember he'd grab my face, and he had dirt under his fingernails and a big scar on his face, very thick accent, worked hard his whole life. And he would kiss our cheeks. And he would say, Belgium is forever indebted to America, because if it weren't for American soldiers, I would have lost my land and I would have lost my property. I wouldn't have had my boys. Even as a child, that stayed with me. And someone where there's a language barrier, culture barrier, I was little, I had no clue. He imparted something into my heart and spirit, a sense of duty, a sense of love of liberty, the sense of right and wrong, the sense that there are good people in the world that want to enjoy everything that God has given us. But there's also forces of evil at work, people who crave power, control, domination. And we live in a spiritual world. Also, I wasn't a believer then, a Christian. I'm a Christian now. It's part of my faith. It's part of why I'm a conservative, a liberty-minded citizen. I'm a Christian first, and then I'm an American. And there are principles that are in my heart that I want to communicate to the greater public. I have no problem praying with my friend because he's more important than a political party. He's more important. I'm so glad you're here. And we as Republicans have missed so many opportunities. I've seen people get up on stage and they play the God card, but then they don't reach out to people who are different than them. They say that they support these principles of liberties, but then you start seeing who they're getting checks from. When I've been out on the campaign trail, I've seen my opponent at the Republican clubs that are very homogenous in nature. Good people, not to say, but an older crowd, a certain kind of demographic. But then when I come to groups like this, I never see them. Why? The same people keep voting for Mr. Lamborn, the same primary voters, and to be honest, they're what's wrong with the Republican Party. I get very frustrated, even being out on the road, where, I went to this one event and they said, we've got to invest in young people. We've got to get someone else to carry the torch of liberty. It was honoring World War II vets. It was a room full of older people. And then I get up on stage and I said, here I am. Send me. Are y'all going to vote for me?
Yes.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And it was a mixed crowd, and honestly, I got a little frustrated because, some people after, she doesn't have enough experience, and my question to them is, well, what are the prerequisites for being qualified for Congress? Does anyone here know in the room? 3 major things. Yep, I think it's, born in the U.S. and living in this state for 7 years. That's it. There is no other qualifications. This idea that you have to get in line, that you have to wait in turn, wait your turn to get in Congress. I don't even buy it. That this hierarchical thinking, this political elitism has infiltrated the Republican Party. No wonder people are fed up. And on the Democrats too. There shouldn't be political dynasties of people that are in control. I don't understand why people keep voting for that, because no one is above temptation. That's why I'm self-term limiting. I don't want to go to DC and become like my opponent or anyone there. I want to go, I want to serve, I want to do my job, and then I want to mentor another person, speak into other younger people, and then give someone else a go. My long-term goal is not to live in DC. As much as I enjoy the city, I want to be on a working ranch. I want to write poetry and ride my horse and grow organic pumpkins. I'm kind of hippie. For reals, that's the American dream for me. I see so many of my friends tonight that came, and my best life memories are just sitting with you guys laughing. We're not afraid of bombs going off. We're eating junk food and me eating my hippie food. I brought my juice over there. My campaign manager's, drink water. What if you spill all over it? But I'm like, beet juice. I like it. Gosh, so I'm going off. I'm sharing, but a part of this campaign, it's hard. I compared it to climbing Mount Everest in Chacos the other day. I might lose a foot, but I'm going to summit. I'm going against big money. I've sat down with some people who I guess you could call them political elitists, and they were kind of like, why didn't you let us know that you were running? We could have helped you. And I was like, did I need your permission? Did I need, you can write me a check now if you want to, but there's a reason I didn't plan and plot and just, I wanted to get up on stage and I wanted to give voters a choice. I wanted to honor the delegates that showed up at Assembly, and I wanted them to vote for their heart and to vote with their heads. I was a surprise nomination. I know most of you know the story, but I went, I gave a speech, and then I got 58% of the vote. I set a record, and there was 2 candidates. It wasn't just Lamborn. There was another gentleman running. I almost knocked him off the ballot. And, there's controversy. I actually talked to Steve House today, and he said that they actually have to keep the ballots until after the primary. And, if we need to contest that, because I heard some ballots were thrown away and all that. And this idea of like, man, I lost by 18 votes. I would have been the next congresswoman, and so it was like, yes, frustrating. But for me, more importantly, it was, I'm not alone. There are people that voted for me. It wasn't about me, but it was kind of my last stand, to be honest. I'm like, I'm going to go. I'm going to make a point. I'm going to give a speech. I'm going to ask people, maybe I'll get on the ballot. I gave a speech. I left. I went home. I want to get ice cream. I want to go to bed. I've been up practicing my speech. And then when I got the phone call that I got 58%, it was like skydiving. If any of you have ever gone, you're like, wow, you suddenly find yourself and and it's exhilarating and wonderful, and suddenly the whole world opens up, and my life changed. When I found out that I wasn't alone, that there are other people that are sick of the political elitists, they're sick of the party, they're sick of it not being enough, they're sick of people getting up on stage and saying, I'm the most conservative candidate in the whole world. Well, congratulations. I'm trying to be well-mannered here. I've been told I need to calm down a little bit sometimes. There's a reason Doug Lamborn has been challenged almost every cycle since he's been in office, and he has held a political office for over 21 years. I was at the state capitol the other day, and I actually met a gentleman who sat next to him when he was in the Senate, and they called him Dugout Doug, because whenever there was a controversial vote, he had to go to the bathroom. I'm not joking, Dugout Doug. And this gentleman, he was friends with Doug. He's just like, I shouldn't even be telling you this story, but I'm proud of you for running. I was like, thank you, sir, I appreciate that. And he said the sergeant of arms were literally instructed to make sure Doug Lamborn did not leave when there was a controversial vote. And that's when he started to run for Congress. I'm not gonna duck out of votes. I'm gonna show up at committee, and I wanna face those controversial issues, because that's where it matters. I'm not looking to get reelected. I'm looking to stand up for the country I love, for the principles of just governance and liberty found in the Constitution. The media asked me, he's like, Well, what does that mean? You know, is it still relevant for our time? It's absolutely, and it's relevant for all time. Truth doesn't change. Like you said, our rights come from God. We're created in the image of God, and we're created equal. That doesn't change with time. You know, we might have fancy cars and more technology. You know, we might dress different. But you think I want to wear high heels and this outfit all the time? No, I'm going to be riding my horse in jeans, by the way. But it's worth it. It's worth it to go outside of my comfort zone, to sacrifice time with friends, to not work, you know, to live simply, to meet people out on the road every day. When I'm discouraged, I got a phone call today, and they're like, well, the attack ads are starting. You know, I was like, well, they're going to happen. You know, I'm going to find out all these controversial things about my life that I didn't know. And, you know, and I had a choice, you know. And, you know, I was like, people that know my story, you know, like, they know that my life hasn't always been easy. They know I've struggled out of college. They know that, you know, I thought that I would, you know, get a couple degrees and come out and get a great paying job, and then suddenly I needed new tires in my car, you know, and my student loans are thing, you know, and suddenly my credit card's maxed out. And, you know, and I went through a very challenging time with my family where I had to help some family members and my mom. And it was a very challenging scene, to be honest. And there's been time where I was ashamed of it, saying, God, if I had just done something differently, I could have changed that or not been in that situation. But I stand before you to say I'm so grateful for those challenges, because I had a decision to make. It's either you're going to break me and I'm going to pull back, or I'm going to fight harder to succeed. I'm not going to give up. I'm going to keep doing what I know I'm supposed to do and to make those sacrifices and to pursue my American dream. And there's no shame in that. You know, I'm up here for Americans, hardworking Americans that pay taxes. You know, there's so many people in D.C., you know, Ivy League lawyers, you know, financially independent. Why? You know, clearly they don't have common sense. Clearly they're not loyal to the Constitution, you know, so apparently money can't buy you character, you know, it can make you look good. But so it's these challenges that I want to take on. And when I say I'm truly running for my friends and my family, I'm neighbor, I mean that. When I go to D.C., you know, I don't want to forget where I come from. Why would I? I'm ready to take the best of Colorado to D.C. because I think they need our working values. They need our community spirit. They need our humility and that spirit of the Wild West that says no one's going to hold me back. They need that in D.C. Some people need to be reminded where they've come from, and I'm ready to go. So I know I'm supposed to let you guys ask me a ton of questions about policies. You know, I am a conservative. You know, there's a lot of things that Mr. Landbyron and I would agree on. Some things, probably not. I'm a little bit more liberty-minded in some areas of policy. But feel free to ask me if I don't know the answer. You know, please, if you're going to, you know, talk about a specific bill, please have it up on your phone so I can read it real quick. You know, like, come on, you got to be fair. But I'm happy to answer those questions. You know, I love analytical thinking. I actually will read the bills. You know, the thing with my opponent is he has a staff of over a dozen people researching, writing, doing all the hard work for him. He shows up, and I was his intern, by the way, so I know how the office works. I know how hard people work to make him look good. When I go to Congress, it is my responsibility to lead, to sacrifice, to do the work, and to give credit to my team where it's due. You know, I want to surround myself with people that are in it for the cause. It's not just about my office. It's not just about me and my, you know, face with the American flag in the background, but it's about my team. And it's a huge contrast between him and I. This is an opportunity for leadership, not only to have a conservative vote in Congress, but to be a leader and an advocate at a national level. To come alongside groups like this and to say, look, they've got it right. They're putting people before politics, knocking on the doors of establishment Republicans saying, look, we're in a time of history where we can literally do what's not been done before. Let's take advantage of that opportunity. I'm not going to do what we've done before. It's time for a new era in Washington and the Republican Party, don't you think? Oh, yeah. So I'm getting all excited now. But thank you for coming, every one of you. Thank you. This is so important. You know, this is democracy in action. You know, coming to meetings, giving up your Saturday night. I encourage you to do it. It's hard. I know I've worked a lot of nights this past couple years. I've had a lot of different jobs, but when I'm around you guys, it gives me the fuel and the encouragement I need. And it's the same thing with being a Christian. When you're around people that encourage you and lift you up, life's hard, but it's worth it.